going on, guys? Coming to you from a very frigid day, very windy, very cold day on a what turned out to be quite interesting and weird service call. So I get a call that the customer is saying the tenants are hot, which is interesting because yesterday it was pretty cold as well, but you know, whatever. I show up to find this. This system is currently running. A few weird things that I noticed right off the bat was we have a hot discharge temp, our TH4, 216. I like to see that between 150 and 180, depending on the mode. The newer N generations run quite a bit hotter, but anyways, I'm noticing a very low TE, which is our low side saturation temperature, very low TC. So after letting it run for quite some time, still noticing that low TC and that low TE. Our target condensing, or our TC, it's the condensing temp. Target in heating is 120. When we're in cooling, its target is 100 degrees minimum with 18 degrees over ambient. So if it's 100 degrees outside, expect to see your TC at around 118. So we're still running at this point. Go off on error. I think that error was probably due to the extremely high TH4 again, 227. Very, very hot. That compressor was not happy. Reset it, put it in heat only, and then our pressure started coming up a lot. 120 degrees, 120 TC is our target in heating, so that looks great. Our TE is influenced by outdoor temp. You know, if we're in heating only, our outdoor unit is now our evap. So if we can look at our TH7, which is our outdoor temp, it's 29 degrees. It's lovely out here today. And then our TE is 24. So we need a colder evaporation temperature, a colder coil than it is outside to get that heat exchange to boil off that refrigerant. So in the beginning, when I first started watching this, I was thinking, oh, definitely looks low. We have low condensing temp, low evap temp, high TH4. That's very indicative of a low charge. That compressor's going to run hotter. You're not going to really be able to build pressure, all that. But as I've stated many times, you need to be able to sit and have patience and watch this. If you determine that this was low on charge after this amount of time, you'd be wrong, because it's not low. So after watching it for quite some time more, and like I said, now if we cycle through for quite some time, that looked pretty dang good. Our TC's 120. Our low side came up from negative to 26 degrees, right where I'd pretty much expect it. Now the only thing that was weird is our TH3, 84 degrees, and that slide it looks somewhat okay, but that wasn't the case the whole time. So 59 degrees. TH3 is right there. This is our high pressure line. So this is our hot gas line. If we're in heating only, that TH3 should not be 59 degrees. That's for sure. So it's not doing much if that line's 59 degrees, and that's what supplies our hot gas to heat with. We're not going to heat well with 59 degrees. And then also our TH16, 17, and 18, which is our accumulator. It's our low, middle, and high of our accumulator. You can see they're all quite cold. 54 degrees, that's probably a fluke because that's the lowest thermistor. That's middle, that's high. So that tells you right there that that accumulator is literally full of liquid. So after tracing piping around and looking at some other temperatures, if we look at our branch controller, so we've got 485 PSI at the outdoor unit. And then we look down at our branch controller, well, we only have 142 PSI. Well, that's interesting, isn't it? Because this line leaves the outdoor unit and immediately goes to the branch controller, goes through the first subcooler, and then hits that PS1. Ideally, your high side pressure should be exactly the same as PS1. It's not going to be the case because of pressure drop. I'm on the roof of a 6-story building, and this is for the 2nd floor, so you're going to have quite a lot of pressure drop from here to there, but not 400 PSI. So that got me thinking, you know, and if we look at our branch controller, all of our temperatures, so our T1, T2, T5, T6, they're all pretty much the same. And if you think about it, they're all pretty close to ambient. It's one thing you got to keep in mind, that you got to understand what the thermistors are telling you, right? So TH3 right here, oh, it's 72. TH2 is 71. That's our pipe temp on our indoor units. Well, that's also the same temperature as the indoor temp, so 73 degrees. So if you look at these thermistors, you got to understand that it says 72, but that might also be just because nothing is happening and it's the same temperature as the room or the air blowing across that coil. It might not be doing literally anything, and it's 72 degrees only because that's what the temperature of the room is. So don't get so wrapped up in thermistors. You got to think, well, is there anything that would cause that, like refrigerant, or is that maybe just the same temp as the room because it's literally doing nothing? And that's the case here. So the biggest giveaway is we have 450 PSI at the outdoor unit and 142 PSI at the branch controller. Now, I don't understand why, but it's because our ball valves on our outdoor unit were closed. Yet the unit would still run, and it would only occasionally trip on high head. It only tripped like 3 times, but it would run for 15-20 minutes. So somebody came up here and shut this ball valve off. Both of them. So this entire unit was isolated. There was no reason for them to do that, other than they probably thought that if they drove that all the way in, that it would open it or something. I don't know. I'm trying to make sense of it. Now this one, I give them a little bit of a break because it's confusing. This is open right now. Do not pay attention to the brass part, but pay attention to the pin and also the open and shut letters up there. This is what it looks like when it's open. So I'll give them a little bit of a break on that. I don't know why they were closed. I don't know why they were messing around with that, but all I know is it shouldn't have been. I also checked that one because if those ones are closed, well, I'm gonna double check that. But basically this whole floor, or not whole floor, but whole area was operating off minus this unit, but only that unit. So you're down 144,000 BTUs. So that's awesome. Just goes to show you, no matter how long you work on stuff, matter what it is, I work on this stuff every day, that the most basic, simplest thing can end up being the problem. I'm not going to walk up to a unit every time and assume that somebody's been here before me and shut some ball valves. I'm going to walk up, hook my laptop up, and go, whoa, why are my temperatures so weird? That's interesting. And then follow those until it leads you into checking something as stupid as, oh, are the ball valves open? You know, I'm tracing all this refrigerant out. I'm getting hot gas from my compressor to my four-way valves. Coming out of the four-way valves, it wasn't even that hot. It was pretty warm. And then coming down, and then as like before we entered the hot gas line, leaving the unit, it was just lukewarm. And I kept saying to myself the whole time, it's almost like it's not even flowing. But with the full accumulator, I was thinking maybe we have a bad four-way valve that's sending refrigerant through the coil. It's cold out here, it's gonna rapidly condense all that liquid. Just following the temperatures on here and just saying to myself, this just doesn't make sense. It doesn't seem like it's flowing. Well, take a step back and ask yourself, what information, what evidence do I have? There's a lot going on in here. No matter how long you work on this stuff, there's a lot to take in. You have a ton of temperatures, you have a ton of piping, a ton of check valves. Refrigerant should be hot here, but cold here, but hot there, but cold there. If you start getting overwhelmed or you start having too many things going on at once, take a step back. Ask yourself, what do I have? Okay, I have refrigerant that doesn't feel like it's flowing very well. I have verified that the four-way valves are switching. I have verified that refrigerant is just not flowing where it should. And think to yourself, okay, so if I really commit to that, what would cause that? Well, I guess ball valves would cause that. They're probably wide open, but I'll just check anyway. And lo and behold, they're closed. This goes with anything, whether you're on a rooftop unit or you walk up to a VRF system and you're not very confident on them. Just try to make it as simple as you possibly can. It's not that easy, but just try to make it as simple as you can. Ask yourself what you have, what you don't have. If you think that there's an issue, if you think it's overcharged, if you think there's a check valve that's bad, ask yourself, what would it exhibit? What symptoms would it show if what I think is wrong is actually wrong? Then prove yourself right. That's all you can do. Just ask yourself, what would it do if this check valve was bad? Okay, if it was bad, it would flow hot gas this way, so this line should be hot. Fill that line. If it's hot, then okay, go from there. So nothing too crazy, just a reminder to check the simple stuff and not get overwhelmed, especially if you're new. You know, like I said, I work on this stuff every day, but it still kicks my ass more than I'd like to admit. But that's how you learn. All right, that's it for today.